So thank you for coming out and talking today at Customer Bill Management and Bill Presentation, or effectively known as CBM. Just a reminder that we do have folks who are out on the webinar, so you can use the mic. And so doing that professionally, to repeat the questions and that kind of thing. But that also means that this will be recorded, so you don't have to seriously take notes, and I know you want to. Lots of information in this today. So they will be recorded and we'll put it on the website. Yes. Each in the website will have all of our recorded documents. So you can go up there and take a look at the webinar and happening. So I'm going to talk about the changes in the future of at the end of this topic today, our topic is customer management and CBM and Bill Presentation. We also have a sneak preview of the Chartwheel Checker new tool. Has anybody used it? It's actually live. Yeah, people use it. So it's going to be a demo of that tool. So we're going to talk about a little bit about the background of our administrator and hiring administration. She's going to give you a little background on CBM and Bill Presentation. She's going to talk about how the process works, both from the reconciler's perspective and from the billing area's perspective. So how do you actually do reconciliation in a lot of guys? And do you have any billing areas people actually do the billing? Yeah, okay. We're also going to talk about some enhancements that are recently made and some that are going to work, and some resources that are available to you. So I think that really are really good at that. Then Joy House from Finance Administration and Contract Manager, also from Finance Administration, are going to do some demos and format some tips and tricks for CBM and for Bill Presentation. And then at the end, Michelle will you some ICS and the Chartwheel Checker. So we've got Captain Ben from Bill and turn it over to Carly from Finance Administration.
Hi, as Nita said, my name is Carly Barron, and I've taken on a new role in the Finance Administration. Many of you may have heard me through the building services area, and I've been in a broader role in finance. To give you a little background on CBM and cut on the presentation. So CBM, our customer billing management, was developed as a tool for campus users for various billing agencies to present their charges to campus users in one area. That control payments, stores, present. We'll get more into that as we go along. Each department can review their charges and update the chart in this tool. And those who do reconciliations, some of you raised your hands earlier, are the ones that came into data into tool. Bill Presentation, or BP, is a partner tool to let the department, various users, look at their charges after they bill. So then it's an invoice type of users. In PDF format, also you can download this tab, and there's a larger group of people who have access to this tool. We'll show you more about it as we go through the presentation. So why did we develop these tools? Some of the billing areas that you'll learn more about later are subsystems, and they're designed for specific business needs. They're not financial systems. And so they don't have the ability to track the larger Chartwheel string that connects to our containers. So these billing units, this tool, CBM, was developed to help these billing units pass their charges on to campus. It was modeled after the P-card system. It also gives you the opportunity to view all of your bills online in one location for these billing units. So here's an example of some of the groups, or all the groups, that currently send their charges through CBM. So we've got Carol and Ann, I won't list them all off for you, but Carol and Ann, some e-commerce vendors, EHS, public safety, student stores, Friday census. And then there are some areas who use bill presentation only. They're listed on the screen, and the reason these billing groups chose to go through bill presentation rather than CBM is that these billing can accommodate that larger chart bill stream. For example, I'll use facilities as an example. Customers choose a variety of charges and have a variety of services, and they prefer to input that chart bill on the front of the chart. So that's all handled through bill presentation and just presenting the bill rather than allowing that chart bill code through CBM. So Carolina Coffee, dining, and we'll read these off. Some e-commerce, so the cylinder rental, wet, energy services, facilities, mail services, faculty benefits, laundry, and telecom. All present their bills through bill presentation. We've had a lot of questions about how the process works and some of the dates. So we're going to look at it, and let's do it raise your hand as a reconciler. We'll walk through what the key dates are and how that process works. So from the 16th of the previous month through the 14th, each of the billing areas post their transactions in a variety of ways into the system. They must post all of that month's transactions by the 14th into CBM. And then the departments, though, throughout the month can go in and look and reconcile along the way. Next, so through the 21st of the month, the departments have that opportunity to continue reconciling for all the transactions that are posted. The CBM system validates the chart field stream. However, it does not do a budget check. So the CBM system is going to tell you if you use some invalid chart field. Okay. And then on the 22nd of the month, all the transactions are gathered into CBM and budget checked and validated again to make sure that there's no combo edit problems. Accounting services reviews these transactions and posts them to Connect Carolina. So a few days later, well, immediately when it's posted in Connect Carolina, the charges show up in bill presentation. Following on to that, the charges show up in info form. So at that point, when you see the charges in info form, in order to do a correction, you have to do a journal for Connect Carolina. So we've had also many questions on what happens on the other side. What is the billing area doing? How are they doing their business? So I'm going to flip and show you what's happening from the billing area perspective. It's happening behind the scenes and it's transparent to you. So each billing group sets their own billing cycle. Keep in mind, we all were operating separate businesses before. We have separate business processes, and they're coming together to give you information through these two systems. The billing unit prepares the file. Some is manual entry, and some are system generated. So it's different levels of systems or different processes. But each month or each week, depending on their process, these transactions are loaded into CBM. That night, the system is processing, each night the system is processing these transactions and doing a check to make sure that the code is valid. In this case, it's the Department of Default code. If a billing charge or if a transaction is not valid or the chart bill isn't valid, it bounces to a reconciliation tab. It's not visible to you. The billing area representative reviews that tab, contacts the customer, gets a correct chart field, and then that fault flows through a posting process on itself with the correct chart field. So later, from the billing, this is again in the billing area only, they have to post a revenue journal. Transparent to you, which is how they operate their business, but to match with what they bill you, they post a revenue journal. Okay, so we also had a lot of questions on how to change your default chart bill string, And there's two different ways. With bill presentation, you have to contact that billing area directly. And I will show you how to find out the billing area contact. For CBM, there are a few people in your school who have access to change that default chart bill string. And you can contact your MOU lead to find out who those people are. And I will also show you how to find your MOU lead in a little bit. Okay, so how do you get access? Again, for CBM, your MOU lead can give you access. There is also something called the CBM administrator. So some MOU leads have designated that CBM administrator. You go to ccinfo.umc.edu, click on the Finance tab, and then go on Information. And then you'll see MOU Financial Lead and Financial Liaison. If you click on that, it opens the document. You can see that it was last updated in 2015, so it's updated frequently as changes are made. So how do you get access to bill presentation? This is a little bit different. Anyone who has access to finance in Connect Carolina has access to bill presentation. So this screenshot here is a Connect Carolina screen, and you can see if you have university bill presentation listed, then you have access. If you don't, then you need to request access to Connect Carolina, any access to finance, in order to be able to see these bills. So then, Anita alluded to a process that we've been going through to improve the CBM and Bill Presentation system. All of us are focused on learning Connect Carolina, and we received a whole lot of feedback on how we could make CBM and Bill Presentation better. So I'll go over some of what we've heard and what that process is, and tell you what business has gotten to work. The first, and some of you I recognize from faces here participated in these, we held some focus groups with the users, and then we held one group focused specifically on the same processes. Second, we analyzed the business processes for both the end users, or the reconcilers, and the billing area, to see who's doing what and how we might improve there. And then third, we organized the results of both of those analyses into 3 buckets: communication and training meetings, business process improvement, and system enhancement. So we've made through all of that right now. And now we prioritize. And we took, if something was easy and everyone used it for your end, we did it quickly. And we'll talk about those things. And then if something needs more planning, we've got it planned out for July through October, and we'll let you know what's coming in when. And so, then we're obviously making the changes. Communication and training are definitely part of all those changes. So recently, you may have seen the memo from MOU leads that went out and business managers describing these changes. Many people ask for the ability to push a chart bill out to multiple transactions. So that ability is in there right now. And Tommy will show that for you later. And then we also improved the filter. So before, 2 things happened in the filter. One, when you filtered and made a change, the system wasn't remembering your filter. And so we corrected that so it will remember your last filter. And then second, we've added in a way to only show you the transactions you need to deal with. If you've already dealt with them, then you won't see them unless you want to. Okay, and then we also fixed the problem where if you were users, you tabbed through the account changed. After you've already tabbed through your transactions, we fixed that problem. More of them. Okay. So then what's coming? The target for July 1, we plan to allow the favorites, those of you that are active users, you set favorites. So the favorites will be a choice. You may have one class. I expect a separate class on the next slide. Okay. And then we also plan to have a way for you to see, when I describe what goes into the reconciler from the batch transactions, you'll have a way to see those transactions that we couldn't pass in the CBM. So they didn't validate, and they're sitting there waiting for a billing area to contact you. In July, later July, we're going to begin all of those, I'll call them transactions that could not pass a validation. We're going to post them here the following time. So then the billing area will only be dealing with default attacks that they have validation. So those are the only phone calls you should be getting. I'm going to pause this.
If you see the user, are you waiting to modify this previously, or do they have to be on their
Currently, the billing area modifies that transaction on their end. But currently, all of you that have these transactions can't see the 3 announcements. So we want to make them visible to you. That's goal number 1. And goal number 2 is to minimize the volume of those transactions. That's the answer to your question? All right, so the next is the clapping. All right, so for August 10th, today, so I got it, we plan to allow splitting out by dollar amount. Unanimously in the focus group. Currently, for those of you that are users, you can split your transactions out by percentage. And what we learned is that fabrication is probably communities have to go to a separate journal later because the percentage didn't work. So allowing us to like dollars will help folks there. And then this is the big one that I'm excited for, but it involves a lot of business process change. We plan to provide a way for billing areas to give you source documentation. And this will be subject to their ability to provide it, okay? So it will be different by each billing group, but we at least want to provide that as an option. I'll carry that into the facility since I know it well. Many of you have asked about your old facility invoice, and this is where that solution will come into play, where you can see that breakout of material and labor like we saw before. Some more traffic. All right. Let me just show you a few more things before we do that. So what information is available in CBM for health? Okay. So this is within Bill Presentation, CBM and Bill Presentation, but this is the Bill Presentation area. If you have a question, remember I told you I can't answer all your questions. You are welcome to call me, but I won't know all the answers. So if you go into Bill Presentation and click on Billing Area Contact, you'll see this list. Some of the so that we have the places. The common vendor, which is at the top, all you do is click on that and see a contact information over to the right. So I would start there first if you have a question. If you don't get answers, you're always welcome to escalate something. So then the CBM and PC for Bill Presentation have help questions. And you'll notice over to the side the user separate. Now I'm logged in here in the system, which is where I'm saying help, but you help documents. Lastly, on the finance website, we have 2 training documents. So finance.umps.edu training, and then if you go through the patient customer billing management listed at the bottom. If any of you are interested in classroom training or know someone in your department who's interested in classroom training, then we have a finance sheet right over here in front of you. So please come up and do that. You can also let for an hour and that. And then we learned that just having ongoing training available, we plan to do a CBT or computer-based training so that you can have new staff members look at it on demand. And that's targeted for all. Okay, and I would like to, I'm going to focus here, I think it's useful to point out one thing, it's probably across the board helpful to the billing groups, but specifically for our end, what I've got here is a receipt from the Crossroads restaurant. And what we learned is that if any of you can have an impact here, get your staff using the IN to provide a 6-digit PeopleSoft ID, the Carolina Department ID, and ask them to print their names clearly, because our folks at Carolina IN actually are typing that in. They're looking at this receipt and they're typing that name in. So if it scrawls, they can't interpret it. It's not. So that's why you're getting a little bit of yucky data on the document if you can't see it on the front. So you all can help us there if you ask your folks to do that. And we know that that's a hard task to do that as well as you can. So next, I'm going to pause for questions while we transition the microphone and get set up for this demonstration. Troy Howell, our finance training coordinator, and Tom Gunther will be presenting the 2 things. Any questions?
Yeah, I'll set the link if there's any questions. Okay, what I'll turn it on, this button at the top. Test. Okay, can everybody hear me okay? My name is Troy Howell, Finance Training Coordinator, and this is Tommy Gunner. I'm going to demo CBM, Tommy's going to demo Bill Presentation. We have about 2 minutes each for these demos, so I'm going to try to cover a lot of material. This is a test system, so I'll be demoing not from the real system, but from a test system, so this won't be affecting real data. But keep in mind that some of the data might be a little old because it's a test system. So I'm going to go to the Modify Current Charges tab. Notice how I have 3 tabs here. You may have more or less tabs depending on your access. So it just depends on what your CBM administrator or MOU lead sets you up with access. The one I want to look at today is Modify Current Charges. Those of you that are reconcilers who have been using this tab, you can select from a range of departments. So you may be set up with a specific range that you'll be able to reconcile. For example, I have a couple ranges. Or if you have access to specific departments, you can just type in that specific department number. So in this case, I want to show you the entire range. So again, the dates may be a little old because this is a test system, but in the real system, you'll see all of the transactions for that department that are waiting on you to reconcile. And then by the end of the month, the end of the 21st, it'll be swooped up and it'll go into Connect Carolina, and whenever it's posted by County Services. So until then, whether it says reviewed, modified, or not reviewed, you still have time to go in and make changes. For example, you can scroll over to the right to see more information. So each billing area provides different information in their descriptions, so you can find out who the charge is for. I want to show you this filtering option that Carla mentioned. You can always go here and hover over the header to filter, for example, by the source, which is the billing area. I can click on this drop-down arrow, and I can sort ascending, or I can sort descending. I can do that for any of these. But something that's new is this Show Filter Row. It's just a few weeks old. So if that's checked, the Show Filter Row, what it allows you to do is type in a specific, for example, source or billing area, so EHS, and it'll only show you ones for EHS. And you can also hover your mouse over and it'll tell you what that stands for. You could also go to View Source Description to see what that stands for as well. So this could be helpful if you want to see only transactions with a certain status. You can do that as well. So that's the filtering option Carly mentioned. Something else that I want to show you first is how to modify the chart code string. I'll show you for one line, and then I'll show you the multi-line edit, which is a new feature. So in this case, I just want to work with EHS. So I'm actually going to do the filter again to get EHS only. And I'll want to sort. So what I can do is I can click on a specific transaction, whether it be modified, not reviewed, or reviewed. I can click on one. And then I can scroll down to the bottom, and I can look at the chart code string that will be used if I don't make any more changes. So this is what's going to hit in Connect Carolina. But I have the option to make a change to the chart code string, and I can check to see if it's a valid string after I type it in. So, for example, let me just make a change to this one. I'm going to tab over and type in my source. Don't need to change my accounts and change my department to 245. Okay, and if I'm not sure if it's a valid string or not, I can click on Validate. And it'll tell me if it's valid or not. So oh, I see. So that's how you see if one's valid or not. So let me do 2, 4, 4. Okay, and then once it's valid, if you hit Save Allocation, it will save only if it's valid. So I can close that. So this one has been changed. So if I change it today, I change my mind, I can go back in tomorrow and make another change, even as long as it's before the 21st. Excuse me? It just took a second to update, because it wasn't valid at first, and then I changed something, so now it's valid. Something else that was mentioned, Carly mentioned coming, is the dollar amount split out. Right now, as you know, you can only split it out by percentage. So if I go to add allocation row, I can do 50% for each line and type in a new string. But in the future, when that enhancement is rolled out, you'll be able to break it down by dollar amount. So that's coming soon. Now, I'm going to show you the multi-line edit. So the multi-line edit, if you click this button for multi-line edit, it allows you to select more than one transaction at a time, as long as it's the same billing area. So if I hold the control button and click on another one, I can select two or more. And this is helpful if I want to change several lines to the same string and I don't want to go one by one, line by line. So in this case, I'm going to change both of these lines, charge them to the same string. Okay? So I've selected them both. Okay, 27180, that's the fund I want. Source 14101. The town is fine, but I want to change the department. 245500. Okay, so I'm going to go down here, and I can validate if I want to first. It says it's valid. And then once I save it, it's going to change both lines to this string. And so the only way I can know that is by clicking just to make sure it works. If I click on a particular line of those two, it will be changed to what I just typed in. And the only way you can see it is to go down here. It's not going to change the department here. This is the original department. So it's going to go to this string at the bottom, but don't be alarmed that it's not going to change the department up here, because this wants to show you the original department that it's in, so they can trace that. Once you make a change like that, it's going to change it to modified. So this is, even if it's already been modified, it will stay modified. But if you just clicked on it, but you haven't made a change, like for example for this one, I just want to look at it. It automatically changes it to review to let you know that you clicked on it before. But you can change it back to not review by just clicking on it. And that doesn't really affect anything. It's just for your own internal use if you want to track what you've reviewed or not. Once it's modified, it's going to be modified as a status. Other things to mention, those are the two new ones, but mention view source description. You can also click view account descriptions if you want to look and see what those 6-digit numbers stand for the account. And then Carly mentioned department defaults, changing those. So if you want to change the default because the default string is something that you need to change, you can, if you have this access, you can do that on the department default tab. If you don't, then you'll need to either get your CBM admin or MOU lead to give you access, or to just tell them that it needs to be changed. Okay? So those were the main things that I wanted to demo. Is there anything else from the group that I should have demoed that I didn't, or that I had at the main time? And any questions? Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Tommy, and Tommy's going to demo Bill Presentation.
Thanks, Troy. I'm Tommy Gunter from Auxiliary Services, and I'm here to present Bill Presentation. So I'm just going to log into the system here. So of course, Universal Bill Presentation is a tool that was built to work in conjunction with CBM for departments to be able to see backup documentation for the transactions that are actually flowing through CBM. So in order to get to Bill Presentation, we just simply log into Connect Carolina, click on the Finance tab, and select Universal Bill Presentation. So this is what the screen looks like for a bill presentation. Basically, when you first log in, you see this screen here, and you can see all the billing areas on the left side of the screen. So all of these are the billing areas that currently send their charges through CBM. And so this is basically a filtering page to get to the documentation that you're looking for. So if you wanted to look at all the transactions and the documentation for a bill presentation, and you didn't want to really select any particular department, you could leave the selection billing area blank, and then you could actually just run the report based on the date parameters that you put in. So, for instance, if I wanted to look at July, through May, I would just run the report with no filters. It's going to take a while to put all of that. And then it would result back to all the documentation that's listed for that billing period. Now, of course, there are filters on all these headers here, so you could sort the billing areas if you needed to. And as probably mentioned earlier, you can actually export the data to Excel, so then you can manipulate the data however you need to. But once you get to this page, and say you were looking for a transaction of $70 from Carolina Dining, there's a hyperlink here to actually drill down into the invoice. And this actually presents bill presentation of what the documentation would look like from the original charge going through CBM. Now, I will point out that the description that's used in bill presentation is the description from the source documentation that came through CBM from the biller. So that is the information you'll be seeing. So once again, say you're only want to look at Carolina copy billing, you would select that billing area, hit Add, close it in the window to select just that billing unit. Once again, if you wanted to use any of these additional filters, you could select by department or any part of the chart bill stream, and it would pull those results. Just change this. And you will hit Run. So this should give me the results of all the Carolina copy billing through the period of March through May. Once again, the transactions are there. You could export them to Excel, or you could just click on the hyperlink and see the transaction there. Another thing that they've already mentioned is there are help documentation links here listed, so you could actually go in and look at the documentation on how to get to bill presentation and how to use it. And also there's a link here for the billing area contacts. Carl mentioned that. All the billing areas. And also this tab here, some of the billing areas that are have their direct link to their website through this billing area website link. So for instance, if you wanted to get to Carolina Coppice website, you just click on that and it will take you directly to our website. Let's try that. I tried this in the office this month, so yeah, so the dining room, it would take you right to bigger tracks where you would actually look through the table. And I think that's about it for Bill's presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Yeah, sure. So Cheryl's question is, has the internal audit been notified about the documentation that exists in Bill Presentation? Is it sufficient enough to pass an audit? Okay. So Carly's response to that question that she has contacted internal audit, and right now we're meeting the requirements for the documentation that is already in Bill Presentation to meet that audit requirement, but we are continuing to have conversations with internal audit. Oh, yes. So when the enhancement comes for the source documentation from the billing agencies, that will actually provide more information as far as the breakdown for the Carolina Inn transaction. So departments are still required to provide the documentation based on the allowances for food and other items that are purchased with the Carolina Inn, so they still have to retain that information. Yes.
Is there any discussion about how we use the other charges in the bring the information so that the lab and the place of work they can provide that product, and that product information is going to be fed in on that rather than go to the department, which may have hundreds of projects that need reconciliation to that chart sheet or source for trust for Carolina Inn. If the originator, the user, is able to give that source value rather than the department, it would greatly alleviate the reconciliation needs.
So the question has to do with can other information pertaining to the chart bill stream be added in CBM other than the department ID in order to reconcile the transaction?
Why should it come up here?
Well, I'll take this one.
I know, this is very awkward. Just hold it up.
So there are a couple of areas within our e-commerce process that we do that. And so let me back up to the question. So the question is, can we accept the project ID to get the full chart string instead of just the department number and process it through CBM? So there are a couple of areas within the e-commerce of where we do that, and then we can take note of that and look at a future enhancement for that, but we do not have a process for that right now.
I have a question from the rep. Can you explain about the student health insurance that is on Bill Presentation? Can you repeat that?
So the question is, can you explain the student health insurance that is in Bill Presentation?
And I'm going to have to research that. I'm not sure. I don't. I do not know if this is related to FP, the FBA benefits or not, but I'm not aware. I'll have to research that. Yeah. So the question was, for the billing areas that go straight to bill presentation and are not part of CBM, to allow users to view those and change the chart stream. So most of those areas are accepting the chart stream at the time of purchase or at the time of requesting the service. So it's kind of expected that that chart stream was validated at that time. But I will take a note of that as well to review in our enhancement list. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next part of the presentation, which is chart field checker, and then we can take some questions again at the end of the session. So again, I'm Michelle Clayton. I'm a manager within the enterprise application. And our team has essentially developed this chart field checker process, which will allow campus users to do a combo edit validation on each chart stream as well as do a budget check. So just kind of some general, sorry, skip ahead a little bit, but we do the budget check, verify that the combination is valid. But keep in mind, this is not encumbering funds. This is just a point in time check of right this second, do you have budget? So to get to this, so you access this via CC Info. If you click on the Finance tab and then Chart Field Checker, it brings you to this page. It has general information, a link to the actual Chart Field Checker application, and then there's also the quick reference card at the bottom of the screen. So it's a simple screen. You're just putting in your chart stream, your budget date, and amount. Budget date will default to current date. But if you're wanting to check, if you know you're going to process this charge in a month from now, if you put that date in, the primary thing that will do for you is, if it is a grant that is ending, it'll come back and say that this is budget date out of bounds. But the actual budget is, do you have budget now? So you may put in like July 30th. But it's checking that will that account be valid July 30th, but it's the budget that is available now. And although the fields are capitalized in Connect Carolina, you can do them lowercase. The system is automatically going to uppercase everything. Your business unit, confirm your source. The particular string I entered is an invalid combination, so this is meetings and amenities, and you cannot use state or F&A funds on meetings and amenities, so it will just come back to invalid combination. and notice that the dates are populated in here. So another example, I'm actually going to process a grant this time. This grant actually ends July 31st. So if I leave this current date and submit, so the one thing, this is using the PeopleSoft budget check, so this does take 10 to 20 seconds to run, so please be patient. This does not have the little Connect Carolina screen on here, but you would see the little spin clock in the tab. But notice this did come back as a valid chart field, but if I change this to August, and here in the tab is where it's spinning. So you'll see it comes back to the budget date item. That's essentially how that works. Any questions about the chart field checker? If any of you do batch journals to Connect Carolina, have an IT group that you have a billing area, there is a web service now for budget checking that if you want to get with your IT staff, and they can put in a ticket to the finance technical team in order to add that service to any of your applications. Questions? Yes. So the question was, put the description of those chart fields on the right side on that screen, and we will look at that as an enhancement to add to that. Any other questions?
Okay, thanks, Michelle. So, do you have any questions on CBM? We'll go over and anything on that? Okay, so we'll go ahead and wrap up. So just a reminder that if anybody's interested in a classroom presentation on CBM and Bill Presentation, please sign up for the training page right now. And that's what everyone's interested to do a class. We would love to hear your input on that. Thanks again, remember to record it and be on the site in this day or two. So thanks for that and have a great weekend.